Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's RISMedia webinar series sponsored by Homes.com and Workman Success Systems. We have an unbelievable show today. We have two amazing guests. They're going to talk about how to turn real iBuyers into listings. And they're going to give you some really great insight on not just theories or things that you might be able to do, but real practices that both of these amazing team leaders are running in their own businesses. We have just a tremendous show and a lot of great information. I'm going to just change one thing on my screen really quick so I can see you all. Here we go. All right, bingo. So I'm Bill Workman with Workman Success Systems, specializing in working with the top real estate teams in North America. Our focus is both coaching and developing team leaders, brokers and owners, and agents who want to take their business to the next level. And we've always been just excited and honored to be part of the RISMedia webinar series. Today we have a tremendous sponsor and guest. We have David Paris with Homes.com with us, and he's their national broker consultant. David's been a realtor since '95, an early adapter of new technology, which is absolutely true. He loves to use the latest tools and technology and systems, and he's really tried all of them. He brings a tremendous amount of experience, firsthand experiences, and guides through and helps guide their agents through complex online marketing systems today. And David, it's not easy anymore, is it? It used to be so easy to get a website, and it used to all be done for you. Now there's so many different things you can do with technology and all of the different resources Homes.com provides their agents. Just would you mind giving us just a real quick overview of what Homes.com is up to lately?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Thank you very much, Virl and RISMedia, for having us here. Like Virl said, my name is Dave Paris. I'm the national broker consultant at Homes.com and a realtor, just like most of you guys out there. So, I'm really excited to be here. iBuyers is a huge topic that everybody has, and it's going to be a great webinar. Just to give a little bit about Homes.com is, and how we relate to the iBuyer business is that, you guys have all heard about iBuyers, and the name is really catchy, but a lot of people have questions on what it's really all about. I talk to people about, and I talk to sellers about iBuyers. Think of it as like wholesale versus retail. And when you're buying wholesale, it's great. If you're a seller, you're selling at wholesale prices. Not everybody wants to do that with their homes. The iBuyer business is growing and it's evolving, and some people need to sell right away and use that service, and that's awesome. But luckily, a lot of homeowners still want to get top dollar and for their home, and that's where we come in. Homes.com has some new features I want to talk to you guys about, and plus we have a special offer for listeners today in today's webinar. Now, all the products that we have at Homes.com, the space is very limited. So if you're interested in any area to just check availability, all you need to do is just text the word ZIPS, Z-I-P-S, to 484848, and we can go ahead and check that for you even while you're on the webinar here today. So thanks for turning that slide over, Virl. So Local Connect's the main product here at Homes.com, and we have a really new exciting feature, which is exclusive phone leads on our site. It's a way for you to connect directly with transaction-ready buyers in real time while they're on our site. And we all know that it's more likely to get an appointment and convert that lead when you get them on the phone. So that's really important. That's a new feature at Homes.com. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this type of marketing and lead generation. It's a really powerful way. Actually, if you can kind of click back to that last screen, I want to show them another new feature. If you see that circle over there, that's another new feature at Homes.com. It's a request a video tour. And when consumers click on that, it's a really important buying signal. So, and that comes out a great lead for you. And another important tip on the marketing in the internet world right now is that more and more consumers are looking and searching for a home before they're listing their home for sale. So it's a great way to connect with buyers, but also make sure to involve that conversation so that you can turn that buyer lead into a seller lead. So it's really, really important. So if you want to flip to that next one as well, back to that one. So Lead Concierge, this is a great program. Thanks, Virl. And I know that everyone here loves getting internet leads, right? Said by no realtor on earth, right? So Lead Concierge is a great, great, great program, great product where we have a way to screen all of your leads. And we have a special offer for today that does just that. So if you do any local connect advertising with the Lead Concierge, it's a great way for you to screen all your leads, and it'll really help you to convert them. This is going to save you a lot of time, so you don't have to answer all those spam or robocalls or any numbers that you don't know, because you can save that number in your phone. Really, really easy. And as a bonus, special bonus, we're doing an unlimited amount of leads from any source. So any other marketing stuff that you're doing, we can accommodate that and answer those calls with our concierge service. Great, great, great tool. So webinar offer today is really simple. You buy 3 zip codes, you get 1 free. Can't get any easier than that. Plus, if you bundle Local Connect with Lead Concierge, you can save up to 50% off on those zip codes as well. A huge savings just for webinar listeners today. And if you want to check availability, just text the word zips right there on the bottom to 484848, and we'll have somebody respond back in real time for you right away. So I'm looking forward to it. We've got Lee, we've got Cleve, we've got Verl. I'm excited. Thank you, guys.
We got the A-team, David, and Homes.com is definitely part of it. And we appreciate all the innovation and new resources that Homes.com does. And I like to tell people, for those of you that are tuning into these webinars, if you find value in them, all I can ask you to do is go send a text right now, check your zip codes, find out what's available with Homes.com, and give them a try. They invest tremendously in making sure we have great webinars. And the way to say thank you is by engaging and trying their product and services. So I encourage you to do that. I'm going to jump right in, David, and thank you for your thoughts this morning on what the iBuyer is. We've got 2 tremendous guests right today. The first is Lee Tessier. Lee Tessier is a senior coach with Workman Success Systems, but more importantly than that, he's also the broker owner and runs his brokerage as a team. What I love about Lee is that the whole office is his team, and they run and they have an incredible culture. They do an incredible job. I know that they're Lee, I can't remember the number last year. Where did we end up last year with you? How many families did your team serve?
We sold 467 homes for 146 million.
146 million and 460 plus homes. It's an incredible team, and they do a great job. He's a 35-year native of Maryland, and he has a great passion for real estate. He's been in the business for only 10 years, but he's worked in the sales industry for more than 25. 80% of their business comes from referrals. They do a tremendous job in developing and building their relationships. He's the #1 agent in Hartford County since 2011, and he's just opened up a second office in Florida. We're excited to see his expansion as he's growing and having the ability to open in more than one place. Lee's with he calls it his business the Tessier team of EXP Realty, and they just do a tremendous job. So Lee, thank you, and I'm so glad you're here today, and I'm excited to have you. I'm going to introduce our next guest, Cleve Gaddis, and then we're going to jump into what Lee's doing. So everybody know who's going to be up next. You see Cleve as a moderator on some of these webinars that we do with RISMedia, and it's not very often we get to hear his insight of what he's really doing in his business. Cleve runs a tremendous team in Atlanta, Georgia, the Gaddis Partners of Remax Center. He's a master coach with Workman Success, which is not an easy thing to become. He works with many of our brokers and owners and our complex consulting clients. He also works with those doing transitioning or wanting to sell their business to another business. He works with compensations and complicated structures. It's just really fun to have him part of our team. Cleve's handprints and his fingerprint is on many of the Workman Success systems that are delivered to our clients. He's a team leader. He does over 60 million in volume with his team in Atlanta, Georgia, while he travels more than 50% of his time. He loves his family and his daughters with the passion only a dad can, and it's fun to watch him as a father as he interacts with his children and how much he loves and cares about them. He also hosts the Call Cleve Atlanta Real Estate Show weekly on Newstalk 1160. And so we're going to hear from Cleve in just a minute. Cleve, welcome to the show today. We're excited that you're here, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts on the iBuyer programs.
Glad to be here, and to be honest with you, I'm most interested in hearing what Lee has to say because I'm always inspired by his business. Always.
Thank you, sir.
So, Lee, one of the things that, Lee and I know each other well. We've been coaching together for, what has it been, 3 years now, Lee, or two and a half years? It's been a while.
It's been about 3 years, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been really fun to watch the trajectory of growth with you and your son and your really cool team. One of the things that's always been amazing to me is how you lead generate. I'd like to know, and I'm sure everybody else wants to know right now, in your market, do you have more listings than everywhere else, or do you guys have a listing shortage like everybody else?
Yeah, we have listing shortage for sure. We're down to about 30% of normal inventory, even a little bit less.
Wow.
We're down by 70%.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And so you have to be innovative and creative on how you find new listings. And so let's just talk about what the iBuyer has meant to you in your marketplace and how you've gotten ahead of it and how you think about it and what are some of the things you do to attack that market.
Well, one of the things I'd say, always pay attention to what's going on across the US. So it seems like whatever happens out West Coast comes east. So the iBuyer really hasn't landed in Maryland, thankfully. I think with our, there's basements, we have waterfront, we have very unique properties, old, new, so forth. So there's not, I don't think they can create an algorithm to figure out the market, which has been good for us at least. So we've gotten ahead of it with our radio and TV ads and websites and Google pay-per-click and so forth. And just come up with different programs. We did guaranteed sale for the longest time. Now we've created instant offer. We'll do a rehab refresh program. So, or do they just want to traditionally sell? So I think the more you give them options, the better off they are. Some people want to trade time for money. So what's more important? Is it time or is it money? When you're trying to find that happy medium, maybe it's the traditional way, but the iBuyer, they usually want time. They're not looking for top dollar. They'll take ease. They don't want the frustration and aggravation of showings and so forth. So how do you make their life better? They want time. So what we, like us as agents, so many times we go into an appointment and we think that they just want dollars and cents. So I think you really need to ask the questions, and when you create different programs, it naturally comes up in discussion. So I think if you create a listing presentation that's a little more unique when you get in front of the client, because if you're not spending money on radio and TV, not saying you have to, but if you're creating these other things that when you're going through your presentation and saying, hey, we have a traditional way, or do you want an instant offer? Like I have 5 remodels that I'm working on right now because people they wanted ease of use. So, where properties are hard to come by, investment flips are harder to come by, but here we're working on 5 of them at the moment. So my contractor's backed up for a few months. People want ease. They want so is the microwave a best place to cook? Usually not,
No.
right? They want to eat the juice, they'll put it in the microwave, heat it up, and they're done in a couple minutes. Or do they want to spend all the time preparing, cooking, and everything else? So don't always have the perception that just they want the highest dollar amount, because if you offer different, give them opportunities. Like here, if you sold it traditionally, you need to do painting, you need carpet. Hey, you've got to fix up, you got to declutter, depersonalize, neutralize, have the stager come in, photograph it and all that. Or do you want to sell it because you're a hoarder and there's stuff everywhere and we'll take care of all of it, depending on what the house is like. So if you offer them options, then, they're what they want is not always what you think that they want. So if you give options, you turn out in different territories of traditional versus instant offer versus guaranteed sale and so forth.
So Lee, when you're making an instant offer, are you using your own money? Have you put financing sources in place?
Yeah, so one of the things I'd say in the very beginning when I was doing guaranteed sale, I was worried because I was like, oh my God, I only got so much amount of money. So then I had to figure out, I had to find places. So thankfully we had investors that I knew that would lend money, and then I created a line of credit. So that line of credit was a commercial line, which started small and ended up growing to $500,000, grow to $1 million, grow to $2 million. So all of a sudden, if you start it, the snowball starts usually small before you end up where you're at now. And things are done over time. It wasn't, I started doing this in 2010 and here we are 2021. So again, you're changing constantly, you're building, you're making things better. You're seeing what's happening in other parts of the country and how's that going to affect you sooner or later? Because eventually it's going to come here. So why not be ahead of it and be one of the first ones to do it in your market, especially, or compete with them and see what you can do. So have lines of credit. Right now with values of homes being up so high, you can do a home equity line. So there's options. There's people that are pulling money out of the stock markets because they want, they'll take 5 to 7%. It's safe. So if you line up people that have those funding, there's a lot of options out there. So just don't have blinders on and going through life thinking, oh, I can't do this. It's one, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time.
So Lee, I love the concept of understanding what the iBuyer is, it's simply an instant offer, and giving people the option of getting out of their home without the hassles of going through and doing all the repairs and fix-ups so they can sell at the top of the market. So it's just giving them an option is all you're doing. I think we've way overcomplicated it and we're all afraid of it, but it doesn't really need to be that. All you have to do is be able to have an intelligent conversation with someone and ask them what's most important to them. I think that was really important that you said that.
Yeah, so I just had one for instance, we listed a traditional. They had an offer right away for like 460. We figured it was like a 420, 430 house. Guy offered way over list. He got, they accept it. Then he backs out for a contingency, of HOA docs. So they get out, goes back on the market, at 440. It doesn't sell for a few weeks. He's getting offers low 420s. He had asked, and he was building a new home and said, hey, what would you give? So I ended up offering him 350 for it. By the time he concessioned, it was probably like 25 grand less than he would have netted if he would have sold traditionally. And he said, you know what, you'll settle whenever I want. I gave him a couple day rent back, but no cost. He moved out. Now we just painted the cabinets. We're doing countertops, refinishing some hardwood floors, light fixtures, and it'll go on the market for 450. And I would imagine it'll sell probably 460. So by the time everything washes out, probably make 50 grand or so. Not all of them are that way, but again, it was ease of use for him. He got what he wanted. He wanted to be able to move when he wanted. He was building a new home. He was tired of the aggravation. He worked from home, so he was tired of showings. He had a ton of showings in the beginning. He had a dog, all the pain in the butt stuff. So if you make ease of use for them, it's so much better.
That's awesome. So let's talk about your guaranteed sale. Like, is this a good lead generator for you right now in this market? Are you finding that this is a valuable program to be running?
People ask about it. It's options. I think that people look and say, what are they doing that's outside of the box, rather than, hey, I'm a traditional realtor. I do the same thing as XYZ Realty down the street and this one and that one. So how do you differentiate yourself? So if you have different programs that you offer that are real programs, not the guaranteed sale. Like I had one, we've been doing guaranteed sale for 11 years. It comes into effect some, but people just see it as an option. I've had people that duplicate it in our market and then they don't have a program. They said, oh, well, I won't buy that because it backs up to a railroad track. So then they call me and I said, yeah, I'll buy it. I don't want to buy mobile homes, but one of the first ones I bought was a mobile home to make the deal happen. But we end up doing a guaranteed sale on the one that backed to railroad tracks. And they said, we signed the listing. We end up selling it, so I didn't end up having to buy it. But you gave them options. They were ecstatic. They referred me probably 3 clients since. We earned a little bit extra commission on that because we did it as a guaranteed sale, which we charge, a higher percentage by 3%. So just, give these options that are more unique. The mobile home that I bought, the client was contingent on selling this mobile home so he could buy our listing. Well, it ended up going through a 30-day period. It didn't sell. So I ended up saying, all right, I'll buy it to make the deals happen because this guy was buying another house. So got all the dominoes to fall. I paid $11,000 for a mobile home. I was going to make $7,500 just on the one transaction. So I was only, I had at risk $3,500 to $4,000 to lose. Then they wouldn't allow rentals in the park. Then they wanted me to move it. Then I had to jump through some hoops. So, you're going to deal with some BS. It's no different than we have moving trucks. That's a BS, it's a pain in the butt. But if you differentiate yourself and you are a little bit more unique and you offer more options to people, they see that as a service oriented. Do the small things that others aren't. Go above and beyond for your client. And that's the same thing that this is doing. It's not taking advantage of people. It's giving them what do they want, not what do we think they want.
I love that. So how do you advertise or market to generate the leads for people that at least have these conversations? What are some of the unique things that you do to generate leads?
So we do a lot of radio and TV advertisement, and we have 4 wrapped Honda CRVs that my top agents drive. And then we have a couple moving trucks that we have, same thing, guaranteed sale on them, instant offer. But you need to constantly brand and be consistent in everything you're doing. So it's on our radio spots, it's on our website. We work on our website every week. We have a website company. We have a 11 o'clock standing meeting every Monday at 11. We go through, we meet for half an hour. 10 o'clock on Mondays, I meet with my marketing person. We meet for half an hour. Have these, make your week really boring and know what you're going to do every day about the same time. Life, you can cram a whole lot more into it in these small segments. We all get 24 hours in a day. What are you going to do with them? So think of what you're going to do and be consistent all the way through, whether it's pay-per-click, whether it's any type of SEO, your website in general, radio ads. It has to be consistent all the way across the board. And, that brand messaging just has to be consistent and persistent more than anything else. It can't be just, hey, for now, not, a year from now versus 6 months from now. And the market's going to change, and you got to adapt to those changes. So as you do, your messaging, again, has to be consistent.
So tell me about the sell price closing date peace of mind, a little bit about what you have on this slide, and you have a client story here that's kind of interesting to me.
So this one, let's see, on guaranteed sale, let's see what this one was. This was, I'm trying to remember what the story was. I had this one was guaranteed sale. We've had ones that we listed. So there's one that's the next slide is the one I'm thinking of. I want to refresh, but on our guaranteed sale, if they get more money for it on our guaranteed sale, great. Like, so the last slide, it came to do with one of my neighbors. They were moving to Colorado. They were buying a new home, but they were contingent on selling their house. And if this was a few years ago when the market was slower, they were priced a little high, didn't remove wallpaper, didn't paint and do the decluttering that they should. And they weren't selling right away. So I said, look, they were getting ready to lose the house that they wanted to buy. It was one of the last lots in the neighborhood. I said, look, I'll do a cash offer on our guaranteed sale. You can send the contract to the builder. That way you have this by this date. If you don't settle, I'll settle on it, period. But if not, if we sell it for more, you're going to get that number. And I get a difference in the commission because of my risk of, hey, I'm willing to settle on it and so forth. So we end up selling, and they sold for more money. They end up getting the house that they wanted. So it all worked out. So I think, again, you're doing something different and being more unique and taking care of the client. Do the things that's going to get what the client wants. Because if they would have not sold and lost the house that they really wanted, what happens? Now I'm the bad guy that's their neighbor.
Yeah. So I love that, and I love that you're just creating options for people. So the whole concept behind your whole philosophy, everything I'm hearing you say is we're giving people options so they can move forward with peace of mind, regardless of what happens. I think in today's market where you've got so many people are afraid to even put their house on the market because they don't know if they can find something. There's all of these different things on there. What you're doing is you're messaging different to these people and giving them other options, which I think is just, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I had another one that they called about our instant offer, met with them. It was an estate sale. The one brother was living in the house. They couldn't get him out. So I said, all right, well, what about if he has his funds early enough, then he can move? So I agreed to settle. So it was more risk on my part. I said, look, I'll give you a little bit less. I'll pay this amount for it, but I'll have to worry about getting him out if he doesn't get out. So it was like a $150,000 house I'm buying. It was split 3 ways. We settled. I gave him 2 months to live there. He had to be out by a certain date. Of course, this hits COVID, so then he can't find a place to go. So I settled in May. They're finally getting out in February, but thankfully the market's appreciated, so it's been a good investment for me. And they did pay me rent, so which it's worked out twofold. So I'm thankful that the market's probably gone up 12 to 15%. It'll be a $350,000 house, and maybe it's worth closer to 4 now. So it was a great investment. So think of these things and think outside the box more than anything else. That's what I'd say, and just market differently. Think of what the client wants, not just what you want. And if you help enough others get what they want, you'll get what you want. And of course, then we become profitable through that process as well.
Totally true.
It's a great life principle. Talk to me a little bit about your rehab and refresh program as another way of attracting a get ready to move now seller.
So we'll generally lend up to, we try to keep it at $10,000. We've had one that he started a remodel project at his house. He didn't have the funds to complete it. We sent our general contractor over to bid it. It's like an $8,000 job. We put it on the market. He had only bought it a year and a half prior. Put it on the market. It sells right away after the $8,000 investment. He nets about $30,000 more from it. I got my $8,000 plus we got a little bit higher commission for offering that. We're totally different from everybody else in the market, so it made a difference. The next slide, I think, is the one that we had another property. They had a couple safety issues in the house. So big house, they had been there for a while. The price range was like $800 to $850. We said in its current condition, they'd be lucky to get $750. They would have had to bring almost $70,000 to settlement. So we, had my contractors go over, bid the work. We came to agreement. I think I lent them 11.5 on this one. We did all the repairs. We finally got offers. We got an offer. We settled at 835. They squeaked out of it without bringing money to settlement, and I got my 11.5 back. Plus, it was a nice sale for 835, considering my market average price is about 310. So you're doing, again, for clients, this one was a little bit more risk, because I'm saying, hey, I'm going to lend 11.5. It's a borderline of, am I going to get all my money back? Or I probably get all my money back, but not all the commission. But if I still earned a $10,000 commission along with getting my money back, I would still be okay. So put yourself after the client, do what's best for the client, and things come. But also make sure you're calculating, be strategic on it. Don't just haphazardly go into it. This is another one.
Make some pretty good transformations of these properties.
Yeah, so this was, I actually bought this from our instant offer. We had offered to do this for her, and she said, nope, I just want to be able to just sell and be done. We told her she put it on the market, she'd probably get 375 to 400. She said, I'm OCD. I just bought another house. I'm moving to the Eastern Shore. I don't want to deal with showings and worry about anything happening or somebody breaking into the house. Said, all right, I'll give you 300. We ended up at 305 on this one. I put 15 into it, and I sold for 410. So, but you can see I was, 3 weeks into it, just doing painting cabinets, doing some flooring. Had to move this big hot tub out, which I thought, I'm like, shoot, I'm going to end up having to cut this thing up and not know what to do with it. End up putting it on Marketplace, and I think I got $1,000 for it. So I was happy that I actually got money for it instead of had to pay to move it.
Right.
So just, again, thinking outside the box and have your resources, because if you're in real estate, more than likely you have a contractor you deal with, you have a painter, carpet person. Make sure you're compiling a list of these people, because it becomes super valuable for you and your client. And then on a case like this, you can get stuff done fairly quickly and then get it back on a market. I wish I had this house still. I wish it was in today's market, because I probably would have picked up 40 grand more. But she just didn't want to deal with headaches. It's like, I'm done. Bought my new house. I don't want any headaches. I just want, and it was good because she paid $200,000 for it 20 years prior. So she was still happy that she was making money and moving on and no headaches.
It's an incredible. I love the stories and I love the pictures, because it makes it real for so many of our listeners. For those of you that are just joining us, we're listening to Lee Tessier talk about how he has become his own iBuyer, and also a rehab and refresh program is guaranteed to sell, how he's finding new ways to differentiate himself and stand out from everybody else. And that's why, he sells close to 500 houses a year. It's been fun to watch your growth, Lee, as you've continued to innovate in your business. And for those of you that have questions for Lee, I'm going to encourage you to use the questions button. There's a little button on your GoToWebinar. And when I have a break, as soon as we talk to Cleve for a minute, I'll open up the call to additional questions and some valuable downloads and giveaways that will be available. Lee, are you okay to stay on for some questions for a few minutes?
Sure. I'd say, and some of the big things is start factoring for this. So get money set up. So if there's somebody that, if you don't have all the funds, see who you know that has the funds. Look to see if you have equity in your house, so you could set up a home equity line, or start building a commercial equity. You end up needing to leverage that on the commercial end, so you'll need other properties, but maybe you have other rental properties that you could leverage as well. So just thinking forward.
Verl, could I ask Lee a question?
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So do you think I think a lot of people who listen to something like this are thinking, oh my God, I can't even imagine creating that much of financial risk for myself. And I think your point about easing into it makes really good sense. But do you think in most markets they could find like a local investor who would partner with them on these types of things? Do you think the return is good enough overall that they could find somebody that would take on all the risk, and then maybe they split the profits, or maybe the investor gets all of the profits, but it allows the real estate agent one more marketing avenue that they don't have today?
Right. I would say definitely keep your hand in the game. Don't give it all to the investor. So if you agree to do a partnership, fine. But I would say that, yeah, if you don't want to take all the risk, that, or get with a contractor. The contractor could become your partner. They may put the funds up for it. Or it could be, maybe one of the parents, who do you know that has some disposable income, that has some money that they don't have, they're worried about the stock market topping out, and then, hey, it's getting a little more risky. What can I do? Can I help you invest in real estate? Because real estate market, with inventory being so low right now is a great time to buy. And especially if you're buying, you're not going in and offering full retail. You're offering roughly 80 cents on the dollar to 75 cents on the dollar. Start at 75, see what they say. If you need to go to 80, but also if you need to get your contractor bids, contractors are huge for this. Make sure you have a good idea of what you're going to spend. So, carpet, if you notice like that house where they're showing pictures, I only painted the cabinets and I did granite countertops, and we did stick tile flooring that gets grouted in. So it's that whole kitchen to do the floor was about $1,000. Countertops were about 2,500. Painting the cabinets was $2,000. So you're not tying up a ton of money. Painting the whole house was about $4,000. So again, I think we spent like $12,000 or $13,000, and there was a huge upswing in that. So just have a good contractor you deal with on a regular basis. If you can't do it, get with one of your investors and say, hey, will you partner with me on this? And let them put the money in, and then you reap the reward of getting the listing and also gaining half, because most of them are going to do, because the investors are having a harder time finding flips. So if they're going to make 50% rather than nothing, they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, one more follow-up. You mentioned in the very beginning when you buy properties, and I'm so sorry, Verl, but this is so interesting to me, and I'm thinking we might have other people who are thinking the same thing. When you offer 75 to 80 cents on the dollar for the properties, are you factoring in the cost of repairs as well into that? Is it 75 to 80% less the cost of repairs?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
because I want to see, like, if they sold it today, I usually mark it as, hey, if you sold it today, this is what you would get. If you did these things to it, you put 10 grand in it, you probably get, instead of 375, you get 4, maybe a little bit over. But if you do nothing, you're gonna, like, we take out commission, we take out transfer taxes are split in our market. So we'll calculate that out and say, hey, I'm leaving a portion, a profit margin of 20 to 30 grand, because I let them know up front. I'm like, I'm not doing this for free. I have risk at it. Plus, when I sell, I have to pay an agent commission. I'm going to pay, even if somebody on my team sells, I'm going to pay them something. And then I have transfer taxes, and you have carrying costs, and then you have insurance. So factor all them in. That pie is not, it may start as a $100,000 swing, but it's not done. By the time you take 15 out, you pay a commission, you have these carrying costs, you have builder's risk insurance, which is expensive, $1,000 to $2,000 per property. So you start calculating all these things in, and they see, well, oh, that $100,000 is not that big a swing, and maybe it's 30,000. So then that makes them feel better, and you're giving them true numbers. Yep. You're not like, I'm not inflating things. I'm giving them like, hey, if you took me to the real estate commission, I gave you everything beforehand. I'm not, trying to be a snake in the grass. I want to give you, but I'm also in this for business, and I need to make money. Right. And I'm also taking risks. So if the market shifts, I want to have a portion. I bought a house a few years ago. Nobody would touch it. The foundation in a 12-foot span, it dropped 5 inches. So wow. There was cracks in the brick front. We had to jack the house up, pour new foundation on the one side. It was about $150,000 renovation. But I went through, I said, hey, this is if I buy it. I'm taking a lot of risk because you already had been trying to sell it and nobody would buy it. Here's what I'm willing to do. My contractors went out, and it took a week to get all my bids in place. Did that, calculated out, said, hey, I'm leaving a $75,000 margin on this because I don't know what I'm going to run into. Once we open the walls up, what other problems am I going to have? So make sure you're leaving on a, that definitely don't do that for your first one. So, yeah, but right. It ended up working out that, by the time we were done, we made about 75 grand on that one, but it was a big plus. But I was very specific. And they came back and looked at the house when it was all done because they grew up in the house, but also be open with people and let them know you're making money. Don't try to hide it. Zillow's in it to make money. Open Door, all these companies, they're doing it to make money. They're not in it to say, oh, we're helping clients. They're helping a client, but they're also making money. Right. Same as we are. We're in business. We don't have a cross on our building. It's not a nonprofit. We are here to be able to feed our families.
Right.
Well, that's a good transition, Cleve. As you Lee talked about being in Maryland and where they don't have a lot of the iBuyers that come there yet. You're a little bit different story in Atlanta. You have everybody and their dog goes into that market, and you see every kind of business.
Everybody likes to come to Atlanta right after Phoenix for some reason. I'm not sure how it always follows that order, but this is interesting. And my information is more for people who are in markets where they already have lots of competition. And so I think it's important as we get started that we talk just a moment about, why is it that a seller would be interested in selling to an iBuyer versus selling to a regular traditional buyer. And Lee hit on it earlier and did a great job discussing it. But I think it boils down to the fact that the average consumer feels like selling a home causes too much brain damage. They feel like it's too stressful. They feel like they're so nervous they don't know how to get the repairs done. I was talking to a lady last week, Burl. She's lived in the same house for 14 years. She has a few deck repairs that need to be made. They're very, very minor, but if you had listened to her talk about the repairs that needed to be made before the home was listed, you would have thought that they needed to tear the entire back of the house off. Like literally, these are repairs that, you know, one day to give us an estimate, the next day to repair, and you're totally finished. But what she's worried about is the uncertainty of having to have somebody come out and make the deck repair. So if we look at the messaging that iBuyers, and we all know who the big players are out there of iBuyers, but if we look at their messaging, what they're selling is speed, certainty, and convenience. In every single situation, they're selling speed, certainty, and convenience. And so my discussion here is on, okay, well, if you know that they're selling speed, certainty, and convenience, and they're taking some of your business away from you, then maybe you should start selling speed, certainty, and convenience, because maybe you need to be selling the same thing that they're selling. Because even with a traditional sale, we can offer something to happen very quickly. We can offer some certainty and we can offer some convenience. And let me just give you one example. I was talking to somebody the other day, and when they go into their appointment, they just take a calendar with them, Verl. And one of the first things they do on a listing appointment is they take out the calendar and put it out in the center of the table. And they say, hey, the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to pick the closing date we're going to shoot for. But see, as listing brokers, big ones, we're accustomed to doing that all the time. Somebody says, I want to be gone by April the 30th. And you're like, great, well, you need to list by March the 7th. And here's what's going to happen. And here's what's going to happen. We tell people that all the time because we know average days on the market. We know the total number of days it takes to close after that. So in a lot of cases, we have what we need in order to message correctly. We're just not messaging along those speed, certainty, and convenience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yep. And then so in our area, we don't offer our own program for buying homes, because when you have real iBuyers in the market, they make it where you can't afford to do that, because when they come into the market, they pay so much more than they really should given the circumstances, and they're willing to lose money for a while until they make the program sit on its own rear end financially. And so, Lee's 75 or 80%. I had the first listing that Zillow came in and bought in Metro Atlanta was one of my listings, and which is great considering I was also advertising with them at the time. And so they offered the seller like 104 or 105% of what the property was worth, because they didn't have any idea how to value it. And I said to the seller, well, you need to take that and you need to move on. Over time, those offers get much more reasonable and much more realistic. So if we go to a home today, and everybody says that when I say this, that it's not accurate, but if we go to a home almost across the board, we can put $25,000 to $35,000 more in a seller's pocket than they could if they sold to one of the iBuyers. But if you can't beat them, join them. So we offer an instant offer program. We use a third-party vendor that actually goes out and collects offers for us from the 3 big platforms that are out there that focus right here in Metro Atlanta. So I say, hey, if you don't want to have any showings, you don't want to have open houses, you don't want to have to clean up stuff, you don't want to have to correct your hoarding problem, you can sell directly to us. We'll make an offer to you. You can close it within 21 days. And then what happens is we shop those programs, Verl. We shop the house, we shop the different vendors, they all come back with different offers, and we actually go and present them 3 different offers. Now, our fee, if we find a home for one of the iBuyers to buy, is much less than it would be if we sold the home ourselves. And I don't want to talk commission because we've got people from different states and different companies on here. But the reality is it's still a wonderful loss leader. It's a way to get leads flowing through your systems of people who are interested in selling a home and want to sell it quickly. So what happens is you as the agent connect the seller to the iBuyers that are doing business in your market area. And this is certainly not to promote any particular vendor, but it doesn't take much searching online to find that there's a couple vendors out there that will actually aggregate those offers. You upload all the information, they go get offers for you from all 3 platforms, or in some cases 4 platforms, and it really makes you look like the hero. I will tell you, Verl, as much as we've offered the iBuyer program, I've only had 2 sellers that have sold to an iBuyer in the last 3 years, and the iBuyers have been in Atlanta for working on 3 years now. But most of the time they can sell it for so much more if they just work with us that they choose to do that.
So I love that, Cleve. It's not, I think a lot of people are just afraid of it. And so they ignore it, or they come up with dialogue that isn't sincere about how to overcome an objection of, I'm thinking about doing a Zillow offer or another iBuyer. What you're saying is, hey, let's have a program. Let's give them all their choices, and we're the 4th choice. So you've got your 3 iBuyers, or here's what we can do, and here's a 4th choice. Let's move forward with intelligence instead of just trying to be slick and talking ourselves around it.
That is exactly right. And Lee mentioned earlier that not everybody wants the maximum dollar. It's true. And so what happens is, I think it's not just that agents want to ignore the fact that we have iBuyer programs. It's that agents feel that threat internally, meaning these people are trying to change the way I make my living. And what they're really saying is, Lee and Cleve, what you guys do for a living, you're probably getting paid too much. And so we're going to come in there, we're going to undercut you just a little bit. Well, what happens is, when we think other people are thinking that of us, we want to be defensive. We want to be, oh, that's crazy, you should never do this. And I see agents all the time that say you can never sell a house to an iBuyer for as much as I can sell it for, which is just a lie. The reality is sometimes iBuyers are just not very smart, and so they offer way more money than they should for a property. And if we put ourselves, or we tried to put ourselves in the shoes of our sellers, and we tried to look at it the way they look at it, then we would understand, man, it really makes sense just to offer that same program, if I can, in the market, if it makes sense. So we call our program a rehab and refresh. Burl, you and I were at a meeting and had a broker from, I believe, Northern California. And Lee, you and I might have talked about the name rehab and refresh, but I actually learned it from them. I think it was a big Century 21 brokerage. And it was the most fascinating thing I had ever seen. But when we talk about the rehab and refresh program, we actually call the program that makes the upgrades or repairs to the property rehab and refresh. But when we advertise it, we talk about it as a property repositioning program. So we say, if your property comes into the market, and if A is the best quality, B is the medium quality, and C is the lower quality product, and when I say best, medium, and lower, I mean best property looks like 2021. Medium property looks like 2008, so it has more dark tones, warm colors, things like that. A C property looks like 1978, has the same vines growing up the wallpaper in the kitchen, has wonderful, I forget what they used to call them, like emerald and blue and the reds that we used to do. I mean, they look like they're stuck in the 80s. Well, that would be a C. Well, if you take a property that would come to the market as a C and you turn it into a B, it's more valuable, because there are less Bs out there than there are buyers in today's world. And Lee, you know this as well as anybody, they will pay more for it if it looks like something they're looking for. Sure. And then the real magic is, how do you spend the least amount of money as possible to turn it into an A? And when you think about it, people are focused on interior colors, exterior colors, the appearance of the yard. They're focused on kitchens and master bathrooms.
That's
Period.
it.
That's what they're focused on. And so if you can take those rooms and turn them into an A, you could very well take what would be a $12,000 or $15,000 investment and turn it into an additional $35,000 or $40,000 in sales price. The way our program works is simple. We will invest up to $15,000. We have a separate person who works for our company that does nothing but supervise the rehab and refresh program. We do not charge the sellers any fees, provided the home is sold and closed, and we are reimbursed for all the expenses within 180 days, and they actually pay all of that at closing. So if I went to David's house, I'd say, David, I need to spend a little money. It's $12,000. David's thinking, oh my God, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to risk the 12. But if we would give him the 12 and then collect it back at closing, he just thinks, oh my God, this is the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, this is amazing when you think about it. And we can get work done much cheaper because we already have all of the vendor connections. So Lee says, well, I got to have my connections. But the reality is, his vendors, because they know they're going to get paid quickly from him, because they know he's not going to come back and say, oh, well, I don't have my money, so I can't give you your money. And the reality is he's probably getting work done for 60 or 70 cents on the dollar of what it would cost if he hired sort of the A-level vendor in the area. So even if you're an agent and you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh my God, these two guys are nuts because they keep investing money in all of these properties to get them sold, because we'll keep $80,000 to $100,000 worth of money out just in the rehab and refresh program at $10,000 to $15,000 a piece all the time. But the reality is you don't have to do that. Because as an agent, you could offer them a rehab and refresh program and you could help them get the repairs done. The seller could fund it, because if they had you coordinating the vendors and scheduling all of the work and telling them what to do and the colors to use and the countertops to choose and the appliances to pick out, the service you're providing them is a real value. And some of you are probably listening thinking, duh, I do that already. Yes, you do. But does the program have a name? And are you using it to advertise your services to bring in more business? And in most cases, people are like, what do you mean? Does it have a name? Well, if you don't name it, you can't sell it. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. You're the master of coming up with great names for things. I love the creativity you use in coming up with things.
Well, I always think, okay, I'm selling the same thing everybody else is selling, but yet I deliver it differently than other people deliver it. So the only way to give me some differentiation is to give it a different name. So I can say I'm the only one that does the blankety blank program in this area. So we need to remember that sellers either want the highest net or the quickest closing or the most certainty, but they don't always want all three of those. And so I can't stress enough, when most agents start thinking about how am I going to get in there and compete so that I can get some additional listings, they think it's all about, I'm going to get you the most money in the shortest amount of time. In fact, Lee, I've been on listing appointments with people in my market area, and that's the way they start out. My goal is to get you the most money in the shortest amount of time. But what if that's not what the seller wants? Maybe they should start a conversation about what the seller wants. Do you want to sell it with more certainty? Do you want to sell it at a specific time? Do you want to sell it and get the most money? What are you looking for? And sometimes sellers will say to you, I want to sell it and I just want to have the least cost possible to sell it, no matter what. I want the least possible cost. And they will almost give it away in order to avoid paying commission to someone else. And if that's what they want to do, then find a way to help them do that. That's my thought anyway. And so it is so difficult because we have to get out of our own heads and thinking, here's what I would want if I sold a home. And we have to get into the heads of the sellers to figure out what they want. And it is always different. Another thing that's good to ask, and Lee, you may or may not have done this or do this, but when you go into a listing, you need to ask them how much experience they have selling homes with real estate agents in the past, and what happened that was really good and what happened that was really bad. Because the reality is all you got to do is take what they say that happened that was really bad and use all those points as the main focus of your listing presentation. And it sounds to them like you are singing their tune, because you are singing their tune. You're telling them what they want to hear. By the way, you have to deliver it. You have to do the things you say you're going to do, but it's not hard to message to somebody if you'll just ask them a few questions as you get started.
Correct.
I don't know why that's so complex. I think that the golden rule, Cleve, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, makes you put yourself in their shoes and say, well, I would never do that. Because you would never do that, then you have a hard time presenting something that you wouldn't do. How do you get your mindset to move, instead of thinking about you, have it be 100% focused on them?
So let me tell you what I think the problem is. I think the longer people are in real estate, the more they think sort of everybody knows the things they need to know in order to make all the right decisions, because they know all the things they need to know. And if we could get our experience, I've been in real estate twice as long as Lee, which is why I sell half as much real estate as he does, I guess. I'm not sure how that works. It made me feel a little bit like I need to pick up my game just a little bit, or less than half. But it's so easy as an agent to just assume that you know everything and everybody else knows everything. And if we just sort of get that childlike desire to learn and understand and grow, then it changes the perspective on everything. And, you know, with all different personality types and all different people in different situations, if you don't spend a lot more time asking questions than you do telling people what you're going to do, your conversion rate is never going to be nearly as high as it could be.
That's right. Let's talk about marketing for a little bit. You love the marketing concept.
So there is an agent in Atlanta, and I hate her. Now, I don't hate her because I hate her. I hate her because she has grown her business way bigger, way faster than I could have grown my business. And I know we provide better service than she provides. I know we get better results. I know we sell more listings. We sell them for a higher percentage of the list price. We sell them in lower days on the market. We offer more opportunities, but she sold 3 times as many houses as I did. And so I'm listening, I get a podcast, and don't know why I wanted to listen to the podcast with her on it, because remember, I don't know if I've told you, but I hate her. No, I don't really hate her, by the way. I just hate that she's better than I am. But I'm listening to the podcast, and at the beginning of the podcast, Lee, she's talking directly to me. And she says, it's not the agent that provides the best service who wins the customer. It's the agent who does the best marketing. And you would have thought that somebody jumped out. I was actually in my car when I was listening. You would have thought somebody jumped in my car and hit me right straight in the middle of the face with a frying pan. I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes, it's not what I do. It's not the service that I give. It's how I talk about what I do and the service that I give that is designed to help me build my business. And so in most cases, and I shouldn't even say this because it sounds like I'm being disrespectful to my fellow agents out there, and I'm not at all. But in most cases, the way we message and do our marketing is so self-centered that it's so self-centered, we don't even know we're talking about ourselves anymore. So it doesn't have any positive effect on us or anybody else. And you got to figure out, how do you message? Lee says on the radio, we'll buy your house. He says you can have money to fix it up. He says we've got multiple options. And the truth is that the overwhelming majority of his business is still regular market sales. Like if you take all of the, now he might make a lot of money on the flips that he actually buys himself, and I think that's great, but he sells way more, probably 10 homes to every one. He sells just a normal market sale. And so think of the benefit he gets for all those additional customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I love Sarah Bernard too, Cleve. I
she's
think
amazing.
She's a brilliant marketer.
Oh, she's not the one I was talking about who's in my market, by the way. Let me be clear. That is not her. She's in St. Louis and I'm in Metro Atlanta. So I love Sarah. Anyway, anybody who wants to hear some of the things we do from a marketing standpoint, I do the real estate radio show every Saturday at 9 o'clock here in Atlanta, but you can get the podcast on Apple Podcast or Spotify, Google Podcast, SoundCloud, Stitcher. And if you want to hear how we talk about offering the services and selling more in the rehab refresh program and property repositioning program, just subscribe to the podcast. And I go through the same things every week, different times during the show, but you'll hear sort of how we pitch it. And most times when we do a radio show, we'll get 3 or 4 or 5 people who will reach out for information.
So it's awesome. And I think it's just a really great offer to allow other agents from around the country to just listen to how you're messaging it, and how you're talking about it, how you get leads as a result of the way you message things. And so I hope everybody listened to that, and we'll go pick up and listen to those podcasts, at least download them. So we'll talk about the institutional asset class, Cleve.
Every once in a while, I do get feedback from the radio show saying you really did sound stupid today. So if you get my podcast, try to keep your comments positive for me. I want to mention, this is such an important concept, because the reason Lee is having to do what he has to do is because of one thing and one thing only. And it's the same for me. Lee's doing it because he's going to protect himself when it does come to the area. I'm doing it because I got to protect myself today. But Invitation Homes and the big investors who went out and bought hundreds of thousands of properties from 2009 to 2012, 2013, they created a new asset class for Wall Street investors, and that's driving everything. So if you take, for example, HomeLight, which actually offers in some of their markets a cash offer program. Well, they're borrowing money from Wall Street to use for those programs, and Wall Street trusts the money. They trust the investment because it's now an institutional asset class, like stocks and bonds and things that big Wall Street firms will invest in. So understand that what's happened is people have figured out how to combine multiple properties together into an asset pool and then collateralize it and sell pieces. And Wall Street says, hey, that's an acceptable investment. Not ultimately for them in the end, because they're selling pieces of the investment to people like David and Lee and Cleve through our IRAs and retirement funds and stuff like that. And the reason they're doing it is this. and this sounds terrible, and it sounds like I'm saying we're not worth the money that we get paid. I will tell you, I've looked at my own tax returns a couple years, and I've thought to myself, damn, I hope people don't ever realize that I'm not nearly as sharp as my tax return shows that I am. Meaning, being a successful real estate agent is not rocket science. It's not that difficult to do. You got a few principles, you make it work. So in some cases, those of us who make big money in real estate, we make big money. Well, I'm going to tell you that Wall Street thinks there are 35% more commissions paid in the United States on an annual basis than should be paid. A couple of years ago, there was $180 billion in commission paid in the US. If you multiply that times 35%, that means all of those people that are coming in, the interlopers, the interceders, the people that are trying to get between us and the seller, they're just trying to get their share of the $63 billion they don't think we earn. And I'm not talking negatively about real estate. I think there's place for professional real estate agents and realtors to be involved in transactions for years and years. If I was in the Baltimore area, I would want Lee to help me with whatever I was doing, because I know I would make better decisions if he was involved. If he was coming to Atlanta, he would probably want me to help him, because he knows the decision would be better, even if he had to pay me a full fee, and even if I had to pay him a full fee, because we understand that value. So there's still tons of business out there for us.
Yeah, it's incredible. If you don't mind, Cleve, tell us a little bit about some of the giveaways or the downloads you're going to make available to everybody and how you use these in your own business.
So these giveaways are really very interesting. There is an agent who is also a team leader and a coach with Workman Success Systems who has done a yeoman's job with her Top 50 program. Top 50 program is based on a book called 8651, which is how do you do 86 deals a year working with the 50 people most likely to give you referrals 1 hour per day. Well, she didn't turn it into the 8651 program, but she generated 110 referrals from the 50 people most likely to give her referrals and closed almost 80 houses. She was just shy of 80. But she generated the bulk of her team's business through the Top 50 program. So we're going to give everybody access to that Top 50 tracker, the exact tracker that Tammy used to grow her business. The next item is the daily success habits. In most cases, people in real estate judge their success after it's too late to do anything about it. So January the 1st of 2022, I look back and say, dang, I didn't do what I should in 2021. I need to pick it up. Well, I'm not sure what good that does, because I can't do anything about it other than just feel bad for myself, feel sorry for myself. And so what the daily success habits tracker does is it allows somebody to determine whether or not they were successful on a daily basis and a weekly basis. And it gives different values, point values for making phone calls, sending text message, showing buyers homes, doing open houses, things like that. And the goal is to get 61 points a day. And if you can stay in that rhythm, it is a 24 closing per year deal. So those are the first two. I believe the third one is probably David's.
It is, and he did that, the buy 3 zips, get 1 free at 50%, and you just send a text to zips at 484848. And let's make sure that we do that. I've got a couple questions. We have just a couple minutes. I'm going to ask them quickly. One of them is, let's see, when you have a lot of companies that are making repairs, do you pay all of the companies at the closing, or do you pay for the repairs as they do them?
So we pay for the repairs as they're completed. In fact, we Venmo or PayPal the people almost instantly the money, but that's how we get it done so much more cheaply. And we have probably invested $300,000 or $400,000, maybe even $500,000 over the years on rehab and refresh. We've lost $3,300 total.
We haven't lost any yet.
Yep.
Yeah. When do you pay them? When you pay them at closing usually, or do you?
I pay them as soon as the work's done, because you want to keep your contractors happy and you want to keep the good prices. So if you pay them right away, they have bills to pay too. So,
and if you pay them quickly, you get first dibs, you get first spot, preferential treatment, because in most cases they get the short end of the stick quite often. And if you help them make sure they get taken care of, they'll do anything for you.
Yeah. Also get authorization from your client before you pay too. So I would always make sure my clients, like, hey, these are the bills. This is what we talked about. Hey, they're done the work. Is everything good? Because I'll always verify with, was the work completed, especially if they're there. Hey, was the work done? Are you happy? Then we'll pay. Because otherwise you just don't want it. Oh, well, they didn't do the work. You just want to verify with the client, especially if they're living there.
Yeah. So have you ever had a property not sell that you've loaned money on in an iBuyer in a rehab and refresh where it gets sold and then there's not enough money left over to pay you?
I was close on one, but no, I got it back. I got it. I would have taken a little bit shorter on the commission because it was a big commission, but no, we've got all of it back.
And the answer for us is yes. We've never lost anything, but I did have a deal where I just missed pricing. And so I wound up decreasing our fee or our commission to sort of offset some of that, but we got all of our money back and got a reasonable fee, reasonable commission as well.
So I like that. So Cleve, a couple people have asked for a third-party vendor that aggregates the iBuyers for you. Can you give a name of a company or two?
Well, I hate to promote their products, but the one we use is called Zavvy, Z-A-V-V-Y. So start with them.
Okay, appreciate that. That's a good one. Okay, so one last question, and that's for David. David, how do the zip codes work with homes.com? Someone's asking about, I've actually had 2 or 3 questions about, when you're getting the leads, you pick the zip codes. How do you get, are you exclusive in that zip code? Do a whole bunch of people get the same leads?
Yeah, thanks, bro. That's a great question. And by the way, thank you guys. We got a lot of text messages. When you do text, you're going to either get in touch with me or someone else from our team, and we can go into all the details on that. But the phone calls that you get, the phone leads are exclusive. So when you get a phone call from a lead, that's just going to you. So that's a great lead. And when you get them on the phone, that's a great way to convert that lead. And I don't know if we said the right number before, but just wanted to mention it. It is, you just text the word zips to 484848. Okay, I don't know if they said that right. And I had a question that Cleve asked Lee that I was asking as well was, what's the percentage of the homes that are getting sold traditional versus iBuyer? And it turns out that most of them are traditional still, and that's where homes.com comes in, because we have a great way to get those homes sold fast with this special offer that we have. So keep that in mind. Most of the homes use these things to market, to get these leads, and then once you get the listings, use services like homes.com to get them sold fast, and that's a great combination.
That's such a good point. 97% of the deals in Metro Atlanta last year were just traditional deals. Only 3% were iBuyer deals.
Everybody, we run out of time. I just want to, oh, sorry, Lee, did you have one last comment?
I was just going to say, make sure you do if you do what's best for the client and have options, think outside the box and do what you say you're going to do. That's the big thing, is just do what you say you're going to do. I mean, integrity is everything.
What an incredible webinar. David, I don't know about you, but these guys are a couple of pros, man. Isn't it fun to listen to them?
I love these guys. These guys are awesome. They're rock stars.
Well,
I could do this all day long.
I appreciate everybody. Just, one of the things that makes them unique is that they're just givers and they'll share with others. They're both workman success coaches and workman success clients, and they've had tremendous success and just part of the great culture. And so thank you for being givers and sharing with everybody else how they can be more successful, thinking outside the box and taking advantage of the opportunities that exist. Everybody, on behalf of RISMedia and Homes.com, I'm Bro Workman with Workman Success. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next month on our RISMedia webinars. Thanks, everybody.
See you later.